House. Hey, there he
Yeah,
is. Hey.
all the
I was like,
baby
oh,
stuff.
there's the baby stuff. How are you? Good,
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
good, good, good. Good to see you. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. So listen, well, we may as well, we could even start with that. You just showed us a little bit of your house. You have a brand new baby, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Let me see, 10 days old.
Oh my God. Yeah, no wonder you can't sleep. You're like, I don't, what is it? What day is it? Who is it? What's
Yeah,
my
no,
name?
it's actually been pretty good. Me and my wife have figured it out. Obviously we're trying to figure out the whole sleep schedule thing going
Hmm.
forward. But as of right now, we've kind of been just taking shifts. And
Hmm.
honestly, for me, it's been nice because my wife's really taken the full brunt of
Hmm.
it, especially
Yeah.
during fight week. And I would say I helped out about 30%, and she did about 70% during then. And now that I have we're past the fight, I'm able to really help her out as much as I can.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool that you can help. And so that's the thing. Yeah. So she gave birth, and then just like 3 days later, you left for Vegas, or
Well, I live in Vegas, so
oh,
it's
you live.
good.
Oh, that's right. Duh, you live there. Right, right, right. So right.
So it's
So okay. So at least
convenient.
it's a home game. Yeah, because then it's like really stressful. Because otherwise, you probably wouldn't have maybe taken the fight.
Yeah, it was nice. I was able to. I came home and helped take care of my baby in the middle of the day on
Oh,
Saturday.
that's
You know,
awesome.
drank a cup of coffee here. Hung out with my wife. For a few hours,
Yeah.
and then said, I got to be at the Apex by 4. So about 3 o'clock, I packed my bag and took off. And I
Uh
said, I'll
huh.
see you in a few hours. And came back a few hours later with the win. And it was amazing. It's such a nice thing to do here in town.
Yeah.
For me at
Yeah.
least is whether it's a win or a
Hmm.
loss, especially when you lose a fight, it sucks to like have to get on a plane the next day and you're
Yeah.
thinking about through the whole travel, like, shit, what should I have done differently? So you're always just kind of second guessing everything you did in the
Hmm.
fight you lost. And if you're on a plane doing that, it kind of sucks and you have to do all the travel back home, especially if it's like
Yeah.
international. For me, it's
Yeah.
like right down the road. I literally fought and I actually drove to the Apex and all my coaches drove to the Apex. And then after the fight, we didn't take the shuttle home. We just hopped back into our cars and headed home. And it took me, after I did all my interviews and
Yeah.
stuff at the Apex, took me about 20 minutes and I got home.
That's fantastic. That's a great night of work. Like that's just an awesome way. That's fantastic if you can do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so listen, you obviously you picked up the dub as well. So how good does that one feel? Because you know initially the fight wasn't going your way, Julian.
I think,
I don't want to remind you,
no,
but
it's
I'm
all
just letting you know that
good.
if yeah.
If you
um
if you look back at a lot of my big wins that I've had,
yeah,
a lot of them I've gotten dropped, and
yeah.
usually, it's just kind of, obviously, like that's something that we're not looking forward to, but
Mhm.
it happens a lot, and I think it actually helps, you drive my fan base up because it's 2 minutes the fight was only 2 minutes long, really, and it
Uh-huh.
was excitement the entire time. I was hurt, come back and get a guillotine. If you just dominate somebody from bell to bell, that's exciting too, but it's more exciting when the fight's going back and forth. And so, when I fought Charles Jourdain, he dropped me in that fight. When I fought Sean Woodson, he
Mhm.
dropped me in that fight before I got both those guys by Darce. When Nate Landwehr fought me, it was like about a minute and a half of chaos, and he had hit me with the right hand, dropped me to my knee for a second, and I came back and
Mhm.
finished him with a flying knee. So I've had, a lot of my big wins have had some turmoil and had to
Mhm.
come back from a deficit in some of those fights. So I think it's just kind of the standard Juicy J fight. I'm going to get hit and I'm going to get hurt sometimes, but never count me out. And, um, I'm just happy that Chris Tione didn't decide to stop the fight too early this time and
Right.
was, let me continue, and I was able to get that guillotine after that.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, there is something to be said for that kind of character in a fight that you can never count you out. And so, yeah, that is something that I'm sure that your fans really love and appreciate. But those who love you, you've probably given more than a few heart attacks.
Oh, for sure. I mean, everybody always calls me or messages me. It's like, Juice, keep those damn hands up, man. I mean, that's been,
Right.
if I, it's like one of those sayings where if I've had a nickel for every time anybody ever told me to keep my hands up, I'd be a millionaire by now.
Right.
So, it's just my style. And,
Yeah.
honestly, I had been working quite a bit on keeping my hands up and being defensively sound, but the thing with Ramos, and I knew about this. I knew Ramos comes out very fast, and he comes out, kind of going for the kill early on. And I knew that coming out to that fight, but just the nerves can kind of get to you, and your game plan can slip away a little bit. And he just he was very fast. He's very quick twitched. I think he used to fight at 35, so he's a bit smaller than me, and I think a bit faster than me in that sense. And so he was able to get off on that right hand. And luckily for me, I trained so much in the gym that I've been hit with those kind of things and been able to, hold my composure and just, be in the fight still. And lesser guys maybe wouldn't have been able to, continue. But I had my wits about me. He never really hurt. It wasn't like I was hurt where I didn't know where I was. It was a flash. And then I was back in the fight and I was ready to keep going. And like I said, it's all the hours in the gym training that prepare me for things like that.
Nice. And, it's a little bit of a theme here. Before you, I was talking to Yusuf Zalal, who obviously got the win on Saturday and who had been in the UFC and then was out of the UFC and was back in the UFC. And you have a similar story. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. So I asked him, what he learned and what he worked on and when he was out, but like, what did you learn about yourself? Because I feel like that's a theme, right? Like not only just in a singular fight do you sometimes get knocked down and come back, but in your fight career in general, right? You've had a couple setbacks and then come back from that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine today, and I was trying to think about anybody else that's been in the UFC for the third stint. This is I've had 3 stints in the UFC, and you hear about people getting in the UFC and getting getting cut and getting rehired by the UFC. But to get cut again and rehired again, I think I owe a lot of that to my management, but also to COVID. When COVID happened, fights were falling out, and they needed guys that were in Vegas with their medicals done and were in shape and could make weight. And so, I owe a lot to both of those. It's kind of one of those things where just the strike while the iron's hot, and for me, it worked out that way. But I learned that they always say it's easy to get in the UFC, it's hard to stay there. So once you get there, to really try to be smart about things. And so, especially on this third stint in the UFC, just really trying to focus on things that, that accentuate my abilities, and just try to play to those things, and not necessarily jump at every opportunity, fight whoever, whenever, however, because that's what kind of got me in trouble when I fought 3 fights in a row within like less than a year, and I lost. On my second stint, I fought Devontae Smith on like 2 weeks notice, up a weight class, against a guy who had 8 first-round finishes, and I got knocked out by him in the first round. Like, go figure, And then and then I took a fight with Grant Dawson after that, who's an absolute savage. He's done, especially after that. I mean, I think I fought him. I think I was his debut. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I was maybe his debut. But I fought him with an ear infection, and I don't want to make any excuses. He did a fantastic job that night. But I was on antibiotics, and I was a bit gassed in that fight, which my cardio is usually my number one skill. And so I felt like I fought that fight when I should have probably pulled from that fight and rescheduled it. But I didn't want to get cut. I had already been cut from the UFC. I had lost the fight with Devontae, and I didn't want to pull from the fight and get cut anyways. So I took that fight, lost that, and then I fought against Julio Arce, but my manager called me and was like, "You want to fight?" And before he could even say a name, I was like, "Yes." I felt kind of backed into a corner, and then I had to say yes to everything and anything. And so once I kind of got back in the UFC for the third time and established myself with some notable wins, I told myself not to take things that didn't make sense. And so, and obviously when you're at a certain point, they offer you guys that make sense. You have to take those things. You have to take the fight that makes sense. But if the other, I want to say a couple of months ago, one of the people in my management was like, "Hey, you might have a short notice fight, but if it doesn't make sense, it won't count against you to say no. Just know that there might be an opportunity here soon for you." I was like, "Oh, all right, that sounds good." But it's like that's where my mindset needs to be, where it's like they might offer me something short notice, or they might offer something that's a bit out of the box, and don't necessarily feel obligated to do that. Like, try to play. This is obviously my career as well, so I want to make sure I'm making smart choices. And I feel like all the fights I've ever taken have been winnable fights. I just sometimes I jump the gun a bit too much.
Yeah, it's tough because literally that's the conversation I was having with Yusuf as well, right? Because he fought 4 times in a year,
Yes.
and
Yes.
right. So it is a tricky thing that you feel like, gosh, I want to be a company man, or like, yeah, I don't want them
Yeah.
to think I'm not ready, right? Or I'm scared or whatever. So you'll say yes to something, and then like you just said, in the long run, maybe it doesn't serve you. And
Yeah.
I do remember like even getting into sort of like the television business or whatever, you learn that the power of no, like the first time you get to the point where you turn something down, like you're scared, like, oh shit, like is anything ever going to come back around? And you probably had to learn that too. Like say no sometime. They're still calling you, Julian, right?
Yeah.
You're a scrapper. So
Yeah.
that's really good for you to be smarter about those choices, because that's how you're going to have a longer career.
You have to be, there's these,
Yeah.
and like, and there's behind every UFC fighter, there's probably thousands of young kids that want that spot. So
Hmm.
you feel a bit of pressure on your shoulders too
Right.
if you're a new guy, or if you're a guy that's kind of 50-50, or you're a guy that's, on a couple of losses or on a
Hmm.
loss or something. You feel obligated to take whatever they give you. And there would have been times, I mean, like when I got cut the second time in the UFC, if they would have called and said, "Hey man, we're gonna need you to step up and fight
Tom
Chimaev,"
Aspinall.
yeah, like
Yeah.
on 4 days' notice, I would have probably done it for free to get my job back. Like because
Yeah. Yeah.
like fighters, in some sense can be desperate at times,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of time, experience, and wherewithal to understand where your worth is at, and your ability to kind of say no to things that maybe don't make sense.
So, I gotta ask you, do people, well, I'm asking you, but do people ask you about the Paddy fight a lot? Do people ask you if you want to fight him again? Like what, because now that he is who he is, that's a name that when people see that, it really jumps out at them.
Yeah, fought when I fought Hakeem Dawodu, that was my third fight in a row that I'd won, and Hakeem, obviously was probably one of my best opponents that I've had, and
Hmm.
it was at the T-Mobile Arena, and I thought this would be a perfect time. I figured I would want to call out Paddy because
Hmm.
he's not necessarily the highest named guy out there, but he is a pretty
Hmm.
big name in the
Yeah.
sense of it. And I've already fought him before, and a lot of people think that I had beat him over at Cage Warriors.
Hmm.
We went 5-round decision, and they gave him the belt, but it was in his home territory. His manager is also the promoter of Cage Warriors, so it's a bit conflict of interest. But
There's nothing suspect at all.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, I actually wanted to, that was actually my game plan after the Dawodu
Yeah.
fight when Joe Rogan was going to come and give me the interview. That was the kid I had on my name, even though
Uh-huh.
he's up a weight class. I just figured it was a win-win for me because if I go up weight, I was on a 3-fight win streak at featherweight. If I
Hmm.
go and fight Paddy at lightweight, because he doesn't want to make featherweight, he's too big for it
Yeah.
now. If I moved up to lightweight and fought him like on a one-off, and if I lost the fight, who cares? I go back to featherweight, and whatever. But if I beat him, it's a big feather in my cap to kind of redeem myself on a decision
Yeah.
I thought I won anyways over at Cage Warriors. But so I thought that would be fun. But the problem was that I was the only person on that fight on that at the T-Mobile Arena on that night
Uh-huh.
that won his fight that didn't get an
Uh,
interview with Joe Rogan because I
oh.
was the last prelim and they were running behind. So as soon as I won my fight, I was like looking around. I was like, "Yo, where's Joe?" And they turned the lights off and like, "Oh, sorry, man, you don't get the interview. They ran out of time."
Yeah.
And I was and I've been wanting to talk to Joe Rogan for so long.
Oh.
Obviously, as a fighter, you're like, man, if I could talk to Joe Rogan, that means I
Yeah.
won my fight. So that's
Yeah.
always been a goal of mine. And then I fought a long time ago Ishihara back in 2016, my
Uh-huh.
second UFC fight ever after the Ultimate Fighter, and I got knocked out by him, and so I didn't get to talk to Joe Rogan that night. And ever since then, I've done the majority of my fights have been all Apex, and so
Yeah.
I haven't seen Joe
So Joe's
Rogan
up
or
there.
I lost. Either I lost or they were Apex.
Oh,
And
dang.
the only time I won where it was a pay-per-view where Joe Rogan was doing the interviews on my fight, I was the only guy that like 11 or 12 people who won their fight that didn't get to talk to Joe Rogan. So it was a bit disheartening, but I was happy to get the win over a tough guy and a tough opponent at that time. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but you're right. If you're the featured prelim, and we're up against it, you start to hear the beginning of Baba O'Reilly, and then you're like, well, yeah, we gotta go. Like, we gotta go, man. Like, it's time. Yeah, you know, and unfortunately, yeah.
And also,
Somebody must have had like a low blow or something that slowed something down in a fight before you. You know what I mean?
well, I was in the back, and I remember they had us started. They had us walk out at like it was like I think like 6:35 or something. So it was like already cutting it close. And but the kind of the crappy thing about it is I almost knocked out Hakeem in the first round. I hit him with the right hand, had him on, stepping in potholes, and then towards the end of the round I did like a jumping knee and almost got him out again. And he was walking in potholes to his corner in between rounds. And I looked over and I seen Joe Rogan's face, and he was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, and in my mind I was thinking, "Oh man, I almost had it!" Like, and then I seen Joe Rogan. I was like, and that gave me even more motivation to just stay focused on the fight and win the fight because. Obviously you have all these motivations to win the fight, but I would say maybe about 10 to 15% of my motivation to win the fight was strictly just to talk to Joe Rogan because I'm a big fan of his. I've watched a lot of his, his podcasts and stuff, and I follow him. And I really, I respect him. And then I also, been watching the UFC forever, and he's, the guy doing a lot of the commentary on it. So just what I want to do is have a small conversation with the guy. And still have it. So maybe down the road I can get one with him. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, now that's rarefied air, Julian, because he's only on like domestic pay-per-views or something, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's a little bit harder. So somebody is asking here though, do you see 155 in your future though? I mean, this is, they're talking. We were sort of talking about the whole Paddy thing, but I mean, like, do you? Obviously, that's a cool thing about being a 45er is, in the future, if you start to, whatever the cut gets too hard, you have a lot of room to move up. So that is in the plans?
Not necessarily. On the regional scene, I fought a lot of 55. I did the Ultimate Fighter 55. But a lot of guys do the Ultimate Fighter over weight class because they want to cut a bunch of times within a certain period of time. But for me, if I have if I know a date at least 3 to 4 weeks out, featherweight's no problem for me. I mean, this last weight cut was actually probably my easiest weight cut that I had.
And you're like 6'1" though, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a tall, lanky guy. But I've really just got it down. I've really just figured it out. I've made featherweight. Shoot, this is my last fight. The UFC has me down as 41 pro fights, but this was actually my 40th pro fight. They have an extra loss on there somehow. I don't know where they got it, but my record's off. I went with it. But this is my 40th pro fight. And I would say out of the 40 pro fights, I would say, maybe like 30 of them were at featherweight. So I've done the weight cut quite a bit. I've learned so much from it. And every time I do it, I get better and better at it. And I'm actually becoming a bigger person. But I'm still, really tightening up the details and figuring it out. So even though I am getting bigger, it's actually become easier for me. But I'm just on top of it. I stay strict during fight week. And I know a lot of people, it's really easy to cut corners, especially when you're at home and you're just hanging out and it's the fight week and you're not really training super hard and you're like all you try to do is kill time. So you're looking in the fridge all the time. You're looking in the cabinets all the time. You're like, oh, my God, I want this. I want that. But, what helped me out was having my baby 8 days before my fight. That whole period of time, I was busy taking care of him, like helping him out. I was forgetting to eat. So it was really kind of helping me out. It's staying at least as disciplined as possible as I could on my diet during that week.
Cool. That's cool. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, if you can make it, then why would you leave? I mean, that's the thing, I guess. If you can do it, and and the thing about it is both of those divisions are fire. It's not like you feel like you can't find great fights in either of those divisions. So it's pretty excellent. Hey, so before I let you go, I will say this, and maybe people don't know this, but you're a fighter, you get cuts and scrapes. I don't know if your wife is breastfeeding, but breast milk is actually incredibly helpful for any human being, any cuts and bruises or anything that you have. So just dab a little bit of it on there. And it's like it'll help you heal up a cut or whatever, like way faster.
Well, I was lucky because I mean obviously he hit me with a good right hand, but besides that, I left the fight with less bumps and bruises than I do in a week of training. So it worked out pretty good for me. What's kind of weird is I recall throwing an elbow at him, but I don't recall cutting him open as bad as I did.
He was bleeding.
He ended up having a gash that was like this big on his forehead, and I really felt bad afterwards because it's like the fight ended the way it did. But I actually didn't even recall hitting. I threw an elbow, but I didn't remember landing and cutting him as much as I did with the elbow. If you rewatch the fight, you can't even find when it happened because he was only bleeding once he was in a guillotine, and the cut didn't happen in the guillotine. It was just a really weird scenario and situation. It was one of those mysterious cuts that just kind of came out of nowhere. But maybe I should send him some. Maybe I should send Ricardo Ramos some breast milk for his eye.
Send him a little, if the wife's got any extra. Although I swear that stuff is gold.
Yes,
it is gold, and it's a lot of work to make it. So so appreciate it. But I guess maybe it's just because you guys were in like such a whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, then we're so it just must have come in somewhere in there, and then the squeeze made it worse, probably, like you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, congratulations, though. It's excellent for you to get another win. So how soon would you like to fight again? Maybe like summertime, or you need some time with the baby.
No, I want to fight. I mean, if someone fell out next weekend, I would do it. Just because we trained so hard. I worked so hard for this camp. Like I said, the weight cut was probably about as easy as it's been because of not just the baby, but just I was so focused. I was doing a lot of running, which I'd like to do all most often than not. But I was doing a lot of running. I was training really hard for this fight, really focusing in and honing my skill sets for this. So the hardest thing to do is to take time off and then get get a little not necessarily out of shape, but out of fight shape. I'm already in fight shape. I just fought Saturday, so I actually went and trained this morning because I just want to stay on top of it. I want to get back in the gym this week and maybe not train as much as I usually would for my fights, but train at least once a day for this week and not get too fat. Not burn the candle at both ends. Where I'm not training and I'm also eating too much. So I want to enjoy myself, but I also want to stay on top of it because opportunities will present themselves, and I always want to be one of those. And like I said, it's you want to know where you're worth and know when to say no, but I don't want to be too heavy to take a perfect opportunity if it presents itself. Like if a fight fell out and it was a guy that I think I favor over, then for sure I want to be able to take those opportunities. I mean, that's what happened during COVID with me and Sean Woodson. I was in shape because my management told me, hey, you might get a short notice fight. Just stay in shape, get your medicals done. So I was keeping my weight pretty close, and that's the reason why I was able to make the catch weight at 150 on 3 days' notice because I was, in shape in the gym, staying ready. So I want to keep the same mentality and the mindset about it because it's not necessarily just trying to stay in shape. I just want to be able to capitalize on great opportunities for myself.
That makes sense. I mean, the saying "stay ready so you don't have to get ready" is there for a reason, right?
Yeah. 100%.
And what is it? Luck meets opportunity and preparation. That's all it is, or something. Luck is when success is when I don't know.
Yeah,
I wasn't prepared for that quote.
when
preparation
and
opportunity
exactly
meet or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever, Julian.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm trying to cross those hairs. That's what I'm trying to do.
Exactly.
Whatever that saying is,
We're just
I'm trying to do that.
Exactly. Well, congratulations on the win, and I'm glad you had time today to catch up. And congratulations on the new baby boy. Hopefully, your wife is feeling good and everything. Yes. And just keep giving us those heart attack fights. Oh my God! Oh, is he down? He's out. He's down. He's out. He's not. He won. Oh my God! Yeah, it's always fun.
Thank you so much for having me, KB.
Yeah, Julian. Hopefully I'll be working your next one. But look to see you soon. And thanks again, and congrats.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See ya.